Welcome everyone to this Force Friday. We are going to tackle one of my favorite subjects, and that's film. Right? I just love movies, love action movies, I love superhero movies, spy movies, military movies, all that fun stuff. Um, and this is something I do on my own without this session, uh, meaning to draw from the films, right, and draw these action poses. And something that's happened, I guess, for me over the years, in watching these movies, is to obviously sit there and like assess them, right, and look and go, oh wow, that actor really pulled off an amazing pose, or the animators, right? Because nowadays with these superhero films, half the time it's not even an actor, it's a 3D model. Like the Hulk, for instance, is a great example, right? It's all 3D modeled. It's like, how well did the animators do on posing out these characters with a lot of action and drama? So I thought I would bring my sort of personal hobby here into our workshop and show you how we're assessing this, and how do you improve these poses. Are there those that are just amazing and not worth touching, right? It's like, wow, that's a 10 out of 10, like the animator or the actor did an amazing job. um, or how can we fix it, right? How do we make it better? How do we find the drama in this and increase the drama, right? So with that, let's say hello really quick to Swenley. How you doing today, Swenley?
I'm doing good. The newest version of Zoom doesn't want my face to show up, apparently, so it's just
I,
a
I
floating
thought you were
voice.
I thought you were showing off your own superpowers, today. Got a little invisibility going for us. It's pretty awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
but
Return J too. Return J is doing even better superhero act today. Right. Very good. I'm the only commoner left here out of the three of us. And here I am, just in my normal routine of sitting with my backdrop. So, so the big note here, I guess, before we get into all of this is just to ruin movies for you, as they've been ruined for me, is to watch them with a more um, not distinctive, but a more conscious eye, that you're actually watching. When I watch films, I try my first time to watch the film and just try to enjoy it, right? Enjoy the story and allow myself to get pulled through it to the end. Um, Sometimes I'll get clicked out of that because I just see something visual that just makes me go, oh, that's cool. Look at that composition. Look at the color theory they were using here. Look at the costume design. Look at the posing, which is what we're going to talk about today, right? Like something will make me realize, like, wow, that was amazing, right? And then I try to let myself back in. On a second viewing or even a third viewing, lots of times I'll go in there, like I said, and I'll sit and draw. And there's certain movies I've seen, 15 times, 20 times, 30 times, um, because it's just so much fun to do that, right? Depending on the movie. I would have to say, one of the best actors I have seen when it comes to action would be, hands down, would be Tom Cruise. There's certain, and I didn't bring him in today, but there are certain films of his where how he physically performs is just like awesome. There's one thing that sticks out in my mind, which I forgot until just now to bring in, and maybe I'll see when Swenley is up, maybe I'll bring it in. Um, there's a scene in Mission Impossible 3 where he's on a bridge and the bad guys are trying to get the villain off the bridge and get him away from MI6. And I think I can't remember if they like shoot the bridge or something like that. Something explodes and he gets thrown against the side of his car. And it is so good. It looks real, like it looks very real. And it's hard to get that kind of reality into the films when it's the actor, because most of the time they're on these cables. And I was thinking about this the other day, like if you're jumping, what you're doing is using your body to fight gravity, right? So it's almost feels more, instead of it being like a pulling thing, because these guys are like hanging around on cables, it almost feels more like a pushing thing from like underneath. And I was like, it'd be interesting if there'd be some way of helping support the actor getting pushed off the ground instead of pulling them off the ground from the top. It makes them feel a little floaty, right? And you could really see that like in the new, when the Matrix came out is when they were doing a lot of this like wire work. And you can kind of see, and I love the Matrix, by the way, it's one of my favorite films, but you could see moments that feel floaty. Like in the second film, there's a scene where they're fighting on this round staircase, which I love. I love that scene, but you can see some of the jumping and everything feels a little bit floaty. And it's because imagine these guys pulling on cables, like carrying you over a trajectory and trying to get that arc correct. Very difficult, right? To make that arc believable. And as soon as that arc breaks, 1 or 2 degrees, and it's like, I could see it. It just doesn't look right. Doesn't look natural. Doesn't feel like the weight's coming down the other side as well as it is going up, right? So anyway, I'm going to start us off today, and then we're going to head over to Swenley, and then I'll see if I can get over to the MI6 film. You can see here in the thumbnail is what we'll be talking about today. So this is from the Age of Ultron. This is one of the Avengers films. And there's a shot of Captain America fighting Ultron on top of this bus or truck. And, what I did here is it's a little cartoony. I drew it very simply. I didn't get into the details of this, but I'll grab red here and you'll see that what I did was in the pose on the left-hand side from the film, he's very straight, right? If you look at the edges of his rib cage, he's like this, right? And, he's preparing for Ultron to hit him, right? So there's all this energy that's going to be coming down on him, but he's very straight. And, bending this would cause more drama. One leg being shorter and bent like this versus a longer leg, that causes more drama, that asymmetry, right? I love the idea of Captain America's shield because it's a plane, right? You have this plane and you want to think about that plane relative to an energy hitting it. And that is right up my alley, right? That is so much about force. So if you think about like his shield is like this and something's coming in to hit it, right? Like if you hit it at 90 degrees, right? So it hits here at 90, you could actually either then go right through it, which we've never seen obviously with that shield, but you'd be able to go right through it, or the force would be so powerful, you'd push the person back. One of my other favorite films and favorite fight scene is Troy with Brad Pitt. And man, this scene against Eric Bana's character, Brad Pitt's really amazing with like the spear that he's got. And he hits the shield like this and pretty much like straight on, like pushes him back because of that kind of hit. So that'd be very different than, let's say, having a shield like this and having the spear come down at an angle, right? This is all about force, right? It's the physics that makes this stuff great, right? So imagine the shield being like this and coming down at an angle like that. Very, very different, right? That this has the ability to kind of slide off because of the diagonal, this acute diagonal over here, A for acute, right? That's very different than coming in at something perpendicular. So these are the things that I pay attention to when I'm watching the films, and the awareness. And when you have a great acting team and you have a great animation team that understands the physicality of this, man, you get amazing action scenes, right? You get amazing films, great action. And that's what I'm looking for, right? So to go back to this, you could see Ultron, the same thing. I pushed him over more, right? Instead of being so straight, I bent him over. I put a little bit more arcing into the arm. I made the legs again more asymmetrical, one longer and one bent to bend the body and the hip further out. And then this is fine what they have here. It's just a little casual for me. So I kind of brought it up and over and pointed it down to Captain America's head, right? Just made it more threatening, right? Like more over the top of Captain America. It feels like he's like going to envelop him, right? So trying to push that idea. Okay, so that's what we're going to be talking about today. If you like what we're talking about, this is the kind of stuff, believe it or not, we do teach at drawingforce.com. All this stuff is about force and energy, how things relate to one another, the physics, and we're trying to bring that over to the body, right? If you like what we're doing here on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button and obviously hit the bell. This way you don't have to worry about being reminded, right? Or trying to remember. Instead, you want to be reminded to come on over, right? Check out what we're doing. So I have the Age of Ultron we're going to look at today, and I have a shot from Thor Ragnarok, and I think I have one from the original Spider-Verse film that we're going to look at. I grabbed this shot because the action is fine, right? Like this version of one of these Ultron-like robots is flying, and it's kind of cool, right? Yeah, I love the Iron Man concept and the physics behind that, right? Imagine if you had a suit on that's got jets in your hands and in your feet, right? Like that's tricky, right? Tricky to find that balance. Ironically, without even looking at this on YouTube, I came across videos of people this past week. Two things. One is with a guy that had, here, I'll sketch it out really quick. One piece looked like this. So let's say here's a figure and here's like an arm and another arm. This thing was you put your hand in the middle of it, and on one side was a jet, and then your hand was in the center, and the other side was a jet, right? So you'd have like all this propulsion. So let's say the other hand was going this way, and you'd have this tube on one side and then a tube on the other side. You'd have all this propulsion pushing out, and it was like holding the guy off the ground, right? Which was pretty damn amazing. And he had very good acute control over how he flew around because of that. The other thing you may have seen before nowadays, it's been around a little while, is just like an Iron Man. Some people have this where it's on their feet and they get propelled with water, right? They have like this giant tube, I think, that comes off of this, and there's a bunch of water shooting off of here. So imagine balancing yourself like that, right? Over like a lake or something, right? Pretty amazing. So when you watch these, I love watching these because this is basically the way Iron Man works, and you get to see the real physics of this. In the videos online, where the person was with this water device, sometimes they would somersault, and the moment they went upside down, man, they would drop like a rock, right? Because of gravity. They would drop really fast, and they have to get their feet like back underneath their body as quick as possible, right, to make that happen. So just kind of interesting thing to think about with Iron Man. It's like, man, if he puts his jets above him, and he shoots down, he'd be going like a rocket towards the earth, right? Because not only does he have gravity pulling, he's got the propulsion of the suit itself and how fast that would actually be. All right. So keeping that in mind. So anyway, the reason I brought up this image isn't even because of all that. It was more of costume design, ironically. I think that the costume design of this robot is really cool because it sets up drama within the design itself. And where I'm getting at with this is the back, right? It's the fact that they gave it this very strong curvature for the upper back and then kind of cut into that to like the spine. So we get this very strong, like S back, basically, right? This very strong, curve and then concave curve, which makes it feel heroic, right? Because the other side really pushes out like this, right? And then you can see that gives the neck room to like come out, and the head is actually pointing forward. It doesn't feel like the neck can't, turn upward. So really, really cool design. And, one thing you'll notice over the years is in costume design, especially in the robot stuff and in Iron Man, the costumes have become more sophisticated and started looking more and more like human anatomy, right? So it's, you can see like, here's the calf muscles, right? The gastrocnemius muscles are set up, right? You can see it's almost like this is the TFL, or not the TFL, but the iliotibial band going down the leg, right? And here's like the hamstrings. You see, so you could start seeing that setup. Look what they did on the arm here. Notice this is the elbow, and they have this cutout over here. So it actually feels like it's a tricep shape, right? So these costumes have gotten more interesting over the years. Anyway, in short, love the costume. I love this robot shape. I love the cutout over here. It's already got drama just built into its design, right? Pretty cool. Again, as always, if you have any questions or thoughts, please, write them in the chat. Looks like everyone's just saying their hellos. Okay. So next one. So here is one of those robots being, controlled by Ultron. And I just thought, he's shooting here. It's supposed to be really dramatic and nothing's happening, right? So you could see how straight this is. A little bit of rotation because you could see the pelvis is facing this way and the chest is facing that way. So that's cool. Rotation helps, but it's very straight, right? Very straight and stiff, right? So how do we improve this? Well, my recommendation here would have been to angle the shoulders more and the pelvis more to allow a stronger bend in here, right? We want to do something more like this, right? Get the legs further apart, right? Legs apart creates more drama. So the center of the chest would have been here, like so. Right? This would have cut in like it is, like right there. You would have seen the hip like this, right? And then this arm is fine, you know, extending this arm out like that, I think is good. Getting it nice and big. So the hand is here with this light in it, like so, is cool. The hand, the silhouette of the hand is buried within the shape of the arm. Now it's got a bright light on it, so that of course is going to help. But I think I would have recommended bringing this up. You know, I would have said, bring this here, bring this up like this, right? So now you have a clearer silhouette. Here'd be the fingers, right, like this, and the light source would be here, right, like so. And now, you know, we can see, I'm just going to go around the outline of it, right? We could see this really clearly, you see, and that really matters in film and in storytelling, right? Just clear silhouette to this figure, right? And it's more dramatic. The head, I probably would have tried to tilt it down a little bit just to make him look more evil, right? Downward is always evil, right? It's like tougher, you know, you're like looking out from underneath your brow like that. I probably would have it look down a little bit. Then the rest of this is fine. Like I said, this arm over here is fine, right? But look at the difference that makes, right? So we're going from that to that, right? Man, it really sets up this arm too, as you can see. It feels like that one's really getting ready up behind him to shoot as well, right? Because you can feel that that rotation, right? Any thoughts on it, Swenley?
No, I think it's great. I think Marvel should hire you.
That's I told Swenley before. My hidden agenda here is to become a consultant for, you know, action movies. I would love to like work on a Marvel film and talk to the actors and the special effects crew and the animators. You know, as I've done talks for other businesses, I've never done one for Marvel that's working in the movies now. Like, if you guys are interested, I'm more than happy to come. I'll be in LA in a heartbeat. You know, yeah, just to keep plussing this stuff, right? Like, how do we make it even more dramatic, more heroic, right, than it already is, right? How do we do that? So this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. You know? Were you going to say something, Swenley?
So that arm, if you go back, that arm that's you, the screen left arm, that's something that I see a lot of people do, you know, like even some of the best artists out there. And I mean, I understand why they decide to do that in some cases, but it always bothers me, you know, because at first glance, I just see like this big blob on the page. I'm like, what the heck is that? And then I'm like,
Right.
oh, now I see what's going on. So the clearer the silhouette is, the better. You know, it should be a clear first read.
Yeah, I mean, these films, and I think the movie makers themselves, they get more and more sophisticated and better at them as well. But number one here is this, right? Is the fact that the silhouette's not great. Number two here is they kind of, from a value standpoint of light to dark, I mean, they are showing off these like little light sources that are on the body, which is cool, but the body is really hard to see, right? The value, the darkness of the costume compared to the background, it's very dark, you know, like either make the background darker and have the white show, you know, show up on him more. There should have been a light basically more on him. And you see they put one on the face, right? They lit the face a little bit. If you squint, you'll see the face is brighter than the body. But I think the whole thing could have been just a hair brighter, you know? So that's another thing is contrast in the shot from the background to the foreground, just to pop, you know, you want to pop the things you want us to see. In fact, you know, I know a lot of you seen Spider-Verse, and I know a lot of you love the movie, so I'm probably going to get booed here, but I think that it becomes artistically overkilled. It's so rich in visual effects that sometimes it's hard to see what's going on. I think the first film was a little more restrained in the backgrounds compared to the animation, and it was easier to follow. I was watching little clips of it the other day, and it's so much simpler, so much cleaner to the eye to actually see like what's going on. And I think they just got so excited with the tools that they have now and the technology that, I mean, there were scenes, not to give anything away, but there's scenes where there's lots of people fighting at one time. And I was like, I can barely keep track of what I'm looking at. And I know how to look at things, you know, and I'm like, God, it's so busy, right? So much stuff going on. So, you know, you want to know how to prioritize, right? Okay. So let me go here. I had this Hulk shot first. On a 1 to 10, I would say this Hulk image is probably about an 8.5 or 9. Like, it's really good. This animator did a great job of getting us a silhouette that's clear. It's dramatic. It's got strong diagonals on it. It's rotating, right? It's dramatic. You know, feels like a giant green guy running, right? Like, it's really good. I don't think there's much I would really change here. I think maybe the 1.5 more. I don't know. I think it's more in the model. I think the anatomy here is a little muddy with like the lats. I think this could be cleaner as to how you see it actually come up and over. The body is rotating, but it could have been bent more. He could have either been running more with a sort of arc like this, even with the spin in the body, but arced his body either that way, or you could arc the body more upright and say he's, you know, he's rotating, but he's running with his chest a little more up. So you kind of want to pick like upward, and he's really, in a sense, more human, like conscious of like where he's running, or bend him down and make him feel like a bull, right? Which I think is probably what I would have recommended here. Just make him like a tank, right? Like running at Iron Man, and kind of curve the body down and turn it, right? And that would have made this even more punch. That's that last like 1 point or 1.5. It's very good though. It's very, very good. I mean, I like all the clean force of this. I like this to this. You can see the rhythms that are going on in here, right? So the model is pretty well built. The animator's doing a good job of getting all that rotation and getting those forces happening. Very clear, you know. It's good. Talking about clear, it's good silhouette, right? You're not going to have clear silhouette every frame of every second of every film because things are moving, right? But when you hit those key poses, just like in 2D animation, you really want to find that clear moment, that clear silhouette, right? Like I said, you can't do it in every frame because otherwise you would never get to the next, you would never get to the next key, right? To the next keyframe, okay?
I think one thing that's worth bringing up now that you're looking at this is that even as a 3D animator, you know, understanding force comes in handy to pose the characters in a more believable way. You know, it's not just drawing, it translates into 3D modeling and 3D animation as well.
Yeah, most definitely. You know, I think that if you were a 2D animator, it's probably something you would have learned, right? And today, if you're a 3D animator, doesn't mean you ever learned how to draw or to be a 2D animator, right? And I think 2D animators that became 3D animators really understood this silhouette thing because you kind of had to in the act of drawing. You know, now you're given like a 3D model. So it's very easy to not recognize the two-dimensional silhouette of a 3D object, right? And it's really important, as we showed in the Ultron shot and here in this Hulk shot. You really want to be aware of, you know, this arm is sticking out, this arm is sticking out. Here's the body, right? You want to be able to see stuff almost like a, what do they call it? I want to say a rotoscoper. There's a term for it in film. But, you know, you want to be able to see like this. You see what I'm doing here? Like you want to see the 3D model. And I know that they could do this in 3D programs. You could just fill this black and make it flat. So if I was a 3D animator, I would be doing that all the time. I would like turn it flat, go back to 3D, turn it flat, go back to 3D, you see? Because I want to see that, right? That's what the audience, believe it or not, is first going to read, right? You want to see the clarity of that two-dimensional shape moving. And scale comes into that, right? Things get bigger and smaller based on that as well, right? So it's like being aware of all of that, right? But man, silhouette, super, super important. Okay, so these two go together. I got A and B. Here's two keys. So what's happening here is this Uber Iron Man here, the really jacked up one that's huge. He's got an elevator here that got ripped out from the wall, and it's got a cable still attached to it. And he's going to take it, and the Hulk is laying on the stairs, I believe. He's going to flip it over him and smash him with the elevator, right? So there's the two keys. Here he is pulling, and here he is, it's up in the air over here out of the shot. So he's like trying to bend his body to get force to go over him to the other side, right? So pretty cool. So again, I would say on a 1 to 10, I would say these poses in general are up there. I would say, again, maybe around a 9. They're really good. How can we make them better, right? This one, it's got all the right ideas, right? You have a big, heavy weight here, right? So we want this heavy weight. We've got this cable here. He's got it over here, right? And you'll notice that the arms are like this, right? It's almost like an arrow, right? It's pointing this way because that's kind of the leading edge in a sense, right? And then this one's really going along for the ride. This side of his body is doing the job, right? So over here, this is leading this way, right? It's all like pulling that way. Notice the angle of the feet, right? Compared to the ground, right? So the ground's here. This is what vertical looks like, right? So you can see the angle of the jets compared to verticality. So he's very aggressively pushing up and to the left, right? So this is the arrow, you see? So that's what he's trying to do. And that makes total sense because the object is over here. He's pushing in the exact opposite direction of it because he wants it to go this way. So I think the placement of the feet are good. I think the angle of the shoes are just right, just perfect. If I had any suggestion here, it could have been maybe cooler to bring this leg higher like this. So you have one foot higher up and the other one further down, and maybe see if the model can even sustain this, but even try to bend him more, right? And I grabbed the keys. I literally framed through this to find the most dramatic moment. I didn't pick like, oh, this one's kind of lame. Like I went and said, let me find the key frame in here. So this could have been bent more. These could have maybe been bent a little bit more back. So I would have put the elbow out and put the hand back like here, like that. And then this one isn't really doing the pulling. This one is here to hold that cable up. It's really the force of this. You know, this hand is sustaining the weight, right? And then this arm is the one that's really helping pull, right? You see? So pretty good, right? Pretty darn good. I would give this a 9 out of 10. It's pretty darn good. And then this is really successful. I would say that's like a 9.5, 10 pose. You got a lot of the bend in there. It's pretty dramatic. You can see the legs like this. You can see now he's pushing in the opposite direction with his feet, right? You could see the curvature of force, right? And then the elevator is like up here somewhere, right? So I think that works out really, really well, right? Lots of drama. You could see that he's pulling up that way. He's trying to bring this down this way. You could see the feet going the other direction. It's really well posed out, you know, and the combination of those two, when you watch it frame by frame, it's really cool to see how he moves across, you know, going from a curvature. Remember, he was curved this way, right? So first he was curved in what I call a C torso that way. And now he's in a C torso in the opposite direction. And it's that flip of one C to another that allows him to get that trajectory of the elevator over the top of Iron Man, right? So hopefully that makes sense to everyone. Okay, any questions so far? It doesn't seem so. Turn the lights off to see the silhouette. Yeah, right. Oh yeah, that's hey Richard. So Rich is a pro animator, right? So thank you. Yeah, so I guess you would turn the lights off in 3D, right, to do that. What I was talking about before with the silhouette. All right, cool. Let's keep going. So here's Captain America in Age of Ultron again, where he was in that fight. Pretty good. I would just put this up at like an 8 or a 9. And here's an actor, right? So we don't have a 3D. This is an actual person. I don't know if it's the actor or stuntman, but it's pretty good, right? It has a lot of this bend in here, right? You got one leg coming out. You got the other one over here. You know, you got the arm with the shield and the hand. How can we make it better? It's always about more, more, right? What do we want to do here? I would bend this more. I would have told the actor, like, you want to really arch your back as far as you can go, right? Like push it to where you're uncomfortable, really push the force of it, right? That's just going to make the hit that made you fall off of this more powerful. So arc yourself, right? Now, silhouette wise, it's okay. This leg can be okay here. Could even bring this leg out so it feels like it's trailing off from where it left, right? Like maybe the foot's here. And then this one I probably would have brought up. I probably would bring this up just a little bit to get a better silhouette in here. And then you could still have like the leftover of the boot sitting there, you see, like that. So if I tone that in, right, let's just grab the color right from here. Right, now I can see that knee better, right? And then this foot and leg, right, maybe we bring that out. Like so, right? Just wiping this out really quick. And then I would have bent the body more. Right, like this. See, like really push this out. So that has more energy in it, see? Right, all of a sudden, when I do that, you can really feel this more aggressively, right? Like really pushing that out. This is all very congested as well, super, super congested. I don't remember what happened right after this. It would have been maybe cool to have the shield out here more. Maybe see the front of it with the star on it, right? Like this. That could have freed up this space to see the other hand a little bit further, right? Now, I get it, you know, just to throw in some empathy here. It's not easy as the actor to be getting knocked back like this and think about your silhouette relative to where the camera is, right? So kind of thing that have to be practiced and just say like, hey, just watch this leg, try to really bend your back, try to think of the clarity of your silhouette as the camera sitting down there and just try to hit that pose as you're getting knocked backwards, right? So something like that. But this creates more, you know, this would create more clarity. We could maybe get the other hand in here. Maybe it cuts across here behind and maybe it goes all the way out. It might even be like this, where you have the arm and maybe you see the hand like sitting here like this, you see, where it's like further foreshortened, right? You're just like stretching and falling back, right? So anyway, Captain America. In general, I don't know, again, how much the actor takes on here or not. I think I have scenes where he's doing the stuff. I think he does a lot of his own stunts. Amazing, right? These guys are freaking amazing athletes, I have to say. Like, yeah, I've seen him like flip around in the air and then like throw the shield. And you're just like, wow, that's pretty incredible gymnast ability, you know? This is similar to the one I had before. I'll be quick about this one. You know, the trick here, hopefully you guys are starting to see there's a repetition I'm going through here. Anytime you have a straight torso, and so much easier to make this better, just throw a curve in there, folks, right? If it's an actor or it's 3D model, curve it, all right? Curve it makes it more dramatic. Here, I would have done this. I would have curved the body more like this, right? Get him like bent back more. Maybe the shield isn't hiding his face, right? Which is like the most important thing for the actor and for the story, right? Have his face over here, get the shield over here, right? This arm is good. Arm looks good, right? Maybe get this knee like further out in front, get the other leg further out and back, right? So it looks more like that, and bam, like immediately, you know, better silhouette, right? Clear silhouette. Let's grab these whites in here. I don't want to imitate the whole background, but just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. Right, knock that back. Get the costume out here. Yeah, look at how fast, right? That adds more drama, right? Here's the highlight and the star, right? Yeah, so much clearer and more dramatic, right? And then the same with Ultron. I mean, Ultron's attack, he could be pushed more like this. Again, throw that curve in there. Get the legs separated, right? Like that. See? So now, man, we have a much stronger curve to curve attack happening between the two characters, right? Look at the difference. See? All right. I want to finish up here quickly so Swanley can get to his. This is from the original Spider-Verse film. I would say this is a 9.5 or 10, like just awesome. Not her, but him, right? He's really great. Strong curve in the back, strong curve in the arm, right? You got your straights in here. Look at that flow up to the knee. I'd say if I had any note, the silhouette's a little funny in here, right? But it makes him, I watched this when it was moving, and he kind of falls in a very broken way. And I like that they got that. It really feels clumsy. And I love that they got the clumsiness of it, you know. Her, on the other hand, you know, you can see she's very casual. And I think that's probably done on purpose. You know, she's very straight. Sure, you could push this maybe a little bit, angle the arm out a little bit, and this arm out here a little bit, right? Could be a slightly wider stance. I mean, it is Aunt May. It's not a superhero or a supervillain, right? So maybe something like that. But in general, very good, you know. And it makes sense, right? Now we're going to an animation company, and it's Spider-Verse, and it's pretty damn good, you know. Okay, last one. So this is from Thor Ragnarok. I'd have to say one of my favorite Marvel movies. I think, man, they really nailed the tone on this one. Just so awesome, the mix of the drama and the comedic flavor of it that they've tried to replicate since then, right? So we look at this, same thing, right? Same issue. He's very straight. I mean, this is Surtur, and he's like bringing down his sword to attack Asgard. And it's like, yeah, okay, the arms are there. His size is great, right? His size is amazing in this film. But this pose is really boring, right? Like this needed to be cut in more and push the chest out more and bend his body, right? Bend the darn body, right? And then we've got his shoulder, his elbow like this, right? Maybe I can't tell what's going on here at all. Like, so whatever's happening here, I would say the silhouette here needs to be clearer. Maybe turn his head the other way. So it's like this, and it's cantilevered relative to the body, right? So again, if we bring in like clouds and sky here and darken this in and make this more fiery red. Let's grab some oranges here. His arm being like this, I think would have added more drama, you know, just bending his body, raising his elbow a little bit, tilting his head, and you have this whole other thing going on, you're saying. So hope you enjoyed this. You know, as you can see, even in the Marvel movies, there's a little bit of room to tweak. And I purposely tried to find stuff that I can help fix. I want to make sure you're all aware, I'm a huge fan of these films. I love the movies. I love all the action. I love the athleticism of the actors. Just amazing. And yes, I would love to work on these. So if any of you are watching, yes, I would love to consult on this stuff and talk about how do we bring more force to these films, right? Make them even more punchy and more powerful, more believable, right? And really try to improve that space. Okay. All right. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Swenley here. I'll take over the chat. All right. It's all yours whenever you're ready.
Yes. Thank you, Mike. That was amazing.
Thanks.
Good responses in the chat as well.
Great.
So let's go over here. And I grabbed some shots from 300's
Cool movie.
Rise of an Empire. Yeah, I think that's the name. I now realize I didn't look up the name. But
that's the second one, I think, right?
Yeah, the second one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and overall pretty good posing, you know. So here I'm starting with some that I think are already pretty good. And it's good to understand why they work, so that if it don't work, if you find poses that don't work, that you know how to fix them. So here, this guy is, of course, impaling a spear into the enemy down here. And notice that we have a very strong curve. I mean, imagine if he was doing this action, but then his torso was like this, and imagine his head was even like much straighter. Not as dramatic, right? So this is the problem that Mike has been fixing in some of the shots. So the fact that he's bending his torso, now we have a very strong curve here, and you can see that he's really like putting all that force into that spear. And you can see the leg, like this is what you call a front to front leg. So very strong, forceful curve here, which lands on the foot. So you can feel the tension and the applied force on that leg. So it adds a lot of power. And the legs, in this case, they work like a unit. So you could say that this is like one giant arc, from foot to foot, and it's like driving all this power into that spear. Nice angle for the head as well. So notice that what really makes this pose work is that it's a bunch of diagonals. There's barely any horizontal or perfect vertical in here, and they have their uses. If you want something that is more calm and static, then you want to use verticals and horizontals. But if you want something dramatic, then you have to go for those diagonals, and add as much variety as possible in the angles. If something would be improved, I would say the silhouettes of the arms, and it's kind of tricky because the pose is quite extreme already, so I wonder if maybe we just change the angle of this arm and bring it out here, and maybe he's holding the spear here. That would open up negative shape in there, and all of a sudden this gives the pose a much clearer read. And given like maybe practically this would be like the best way to hold the spear, but this entertainment, so you want to go for maximum drama, so you might need to like push things a bit further to make things clearer and more dramatic. So that is one, and I also have this one. So awesome pose. Again, notice that the torso is bent. We have the strong bend, especially in the upper back. Like look at this force shape that is being created. And I think, given the angle of his pelvis, I think this would be an S curve from the back into the stomach and pelvis, like that. Now the silhouette is fairly clear. Like we have some nice angles here for the legs. You can see enough of like the other lower leg and foot here. Now we have clear negative shape, so that reads very well. And of course, a shield, I mean, he's protecting himself, so it makes sense for it to be here. I think that works well. You have this head sticking out, and you have all this force driving from his back into that arm. And I think he's holding a sword here, if I'm correct. No, so it's like an arrow. I think last week or 2 weeks ago, we talked about drawing with arrows and seeing the force arrows, in direction. So it's like a giant arrow of energy coming from his upper body through the arm, all the way to the sword, like impaling this guy. So awesome pose, like great forcefulness to this pose. So this one, notice that, after all the ones that we've seen, this guy is pretty straight. If you compare it to this one and this one, this is a very straight and stiff pose. And it's kind of like a similar action to this one, given that this guy is on the ground, of course, but similar action. And notice the difference in this guy's posing compared to this guy. This one, he has a little bit of bending, but overall, he's still pretty straight. His legs are relatively straight. We have like a subtle angle here, but it could be way more dramatic. Again, to increase the drama and entertainment value of the pose, he could have definitely, first of all, I think he would have to like lean more into the action. So his torso might be like more like this, and that leaves room for his leg here. So his leg would have been here, his foot would have been here for supports. And this leg, definitely like the other guy that we saw, this arc needs to continue. And similar to what Mike had in his pose, this should be like this should be stretched to contrast the bent leg here. Now, remember, contrast creates interest. So now we have this drive of power from this foot into the axe. So you would lean more. I think this arm, again, this in terms of silhouettes, if you just look at the silhouettes, this is just, it's not clear. This one is clear, it's out in the open. We have this negative shape here, so it reads really well. But for the other arm, we can definitely make some improvements. So let me draw this one first. And not much to change here, like this is pretty clear. The axe. And I think the length of the axe might be a challenge because you would have to like hold it around here. So yeah, challenging. Like this would have to be longer. Like in the case of the first guy, he has a pretty long spear. So if this was longer, it would be easy for him to hold him here and like bring his arm out. But I think by necessity, the arm would have to be in this position. So the solution would be maybe a slightly different camera angle. Now, maybe if we go slightly towards this side of the camera, we would have room to open up some negative space to make this arm read more clearly as well. At least if he leans his body more into the action, now change the angle of the legs, that will make the pose a lot more dramatic. And these are the things that you want to think about when posing your own characters, whether it's through drawing or through animation. Same principles applies. And if you have questions, of course, feel free to leave those in the chat.
I think we're figuring out how we're going to do this for the rest of the year.
Yeah, do they want that?
I don't know. I do.
I want to do it with anime. What do you guys think in the chat? I'm a big anime fan, so that should be fun.
Yeah, anime too. Anime would be great. I was even thinking we could just pick certain movies. I'd like to see how this, I was mentioning how this would work across live action versus animated films. We can look at American animation versus anime, right? There's a lot of comparisons to check out too. It's cool.
Yeah. So I have one more here. Do you still want to do the Tom Cruise one at the end?
Yeah, I have, okay. But it's okay. That'll only take like 2 minutes or so. So you do what you got to do. Okay.
So this is the last one I have, and it's actually a sequence. I picked like the 3 key frames. So this the anticipation. This is like right in the middle, and this is the final. It's just like slashing this guy on the ground with his sword.
Cool.
So overall, pretty good posing. I think the main thing that can be improved here is the bending of the torso, especially in these frames. Like in terms of angles, and this is very close to being a perfect vertical and a perfect horizontal. And anytime you have this is more about like rest and calmness rather than action and drama. So what we could do is we could bend this guy a bit more. We could definitely bend his torso more. I'm using very simple 4 shapes now to just like block this in. Now we could bend more. Now perhaps even a bit more twist. And then I think it would be really interesting to like bend his head, maybe even like leaning it to the side a little bit as he's looking down, because the guy that is going to like slash with the sword is down there. And probably with his eyes he's looking down, but because he has the helmet and there's a shadow, we don't see it. So to make it visual, to make it visual, we would have to like lean his head and make it clear that he's looking at his target down here. So this would work. Maybe this leg could be at a more dramatic angle. It would be like hidden.
Now, to give the guy some credit, but what we lose in the silhouette is that he is rotating, right? His rib cage and pelvis, you can see the stretch across his stomach. But ironically, in silhouette, you don't really see that,
Yeah, that's very true. Like his chest is facing us slightly more than the pelvis, to your point. And it's kind of like similar, like we have this bent leg, like it's in this kind of action, I think this really works well. You have this bent leg and the other one could be a bit more stretched. It's kind of like a great like anticipation pose for this type of action. And then for the arm, since he's bending his upper body more, I think it would make sense for his arm to be more down here. Now we could maybe angle this a bit more, and his hand would be here, and then here we would have his sword. Now we might even try to angle it more. I think this might work even better. More diagonal, closer to a 45-degree angle. And then this arm would be lifted more up here. And I'm thinking if I want to keep it straight or if I want some angles here as well, because right now he doesn't really need this shield. Like there is no one like attacking him at this point. So I think he could like hold the shields maybe up here and also angle the shields, like place his arm in a way that the shield itself, like the ellipse that the shield creates, is also at a diagonal angle. I think that would work. And so the only problem we see now is that we have two parallels, so we would have to see how to fix it. Either maybe we angle the swords even more, or maybe the sword has to be maybe slightly straighter, just so we have more contrast between the angles. So as you can see, it's a lot of thinking. Good posing is a thoughtful process, not something that just happens by accident. You have to put thought and design the pose. Actually, that's what it comes down to. Yeah, so that would make it a bit more dramatic. Yeah, this one would be kind of similar. Like there isn't that much of a change in the pose, so we could still have like a slightly stronger bend in the torso, maybe. Now, maybe less than the previous one, since he's starting to like come forward with his body. This is pretty good.
It's like I'd like to feel the drag on that arm as he's like pulling it with his shoulder and elbow forward to come over the arc of hitting the guy,
This one?
Yeah. Just kind of sitting out there right now. And he would have to push out the bottom of his rib cage more to create a stronger curve in his torso to make it feel like his ribs are dragging his elbow forward. Almost like when a pitcher throws a baseball,
Yeah. So would you still have the arm like down here still during?
Yeah, I think down is better. And I would push that rib cage tip out on the right side as much as I physically could. If I were directing him, I'd be like, man, I want you to imagine that sword's heavy and that you're pulling it forward with your chest, and then you're going to whip it out over your head and come down, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so put as much applied force as possible.
Yes, exactly, right there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
and definitely keep the head bends looking down. Maybe still having the tilt in it. So we'll definitely make it a lot more dramatic. And then in this last frame, Let's see. I think what I would change here is kind of like what is that called in animation? Secondary action. When you have like the ball and the tail, you know, like when the ball comes down, the tail is like still up in the air. I think I would do that with the arm here, you know, meaning that since he's bending and like slashing this guy down here, I think this arm kind of like has to be maybe more up here. You know, I think this would be more dramatic. Keep the shield at a diagonal angle as well. You know, so you can see like this motion. Yeah, maybe bend a bit more, like the head could be like more down here. Yeah, I think lifting that arm up, even in the pose that he's in, I think that would add to the drama of the pose. You know, because right now it's very parallel to the body, you know, so it's kind of like creating symmetry. If we just get a slight variety in angles, that would already do a lot to improve the pose. All right, we have a few minutes left. I want to give it over to Mike, so he can show us his awesome last scene.
All right, here it is. I love this scene. It's like one of my favorite movie moments ever. So here, let's go full screen. I'll get my annotate tool out here. So watch this, watch what happens here. As we all know, it's almost become a joke at this point that everyone loves watching Tom Cruise run. And I think that's because he runs well. You know, he runs dramatically. He's like very far reaching in like how he uses his arms and his legs. And he runs, if you notice him running, he runs with his chest like sticking forward. So he's leaning his chest into the run, which also makes it more dramatic, right? It's no accident that it looks good because of the stuff he's doing, right? So here he is running, right? And this missile comes in from the right-hand side and blows up. Now, what I don't like here is the explosion is kind of behind him, but he goes to the right. So that's a little fake to me. I wish the explosion had been further on the left-hand side of the bridge. But that aside, if you just look at him and his body and what he does here, look at this great angle between the upper body into the pelvis and his leg that's dragging on the ground, like really dramatic angle, right? Look at the silhouette, right? Clear silhouette, right? He's going to hit the car, right? Which is awesome. And then he bends his body in the other direction. You see how we let it break there, right? So his body's coming in like this, right? Now, if by some miracle I ever got to talk to Tom Cruise, I would say, you know, like, hey, curve this, right? Curve this a little more, right? So this way, when you get to the car, if we go back to the car here, it gives you more opportunity to break that curve going in the other way, right? Which is like this, you see? And the more of the change you can occur in that, you know, the better, the more dramatic it looks. And you could tell he pushed that, you know, which is awesome, right? Like look at, you know, look how he threw his head over the car, right? Like as he hits the car, he lets his head dangle over, his arm go over to play that up, right? To play up that moment. And then finally he slides down to the ground. And now he's in that reverse curve again, right? Like this, you see? So he's coming in, he hits the car and gets thrown over it, right? Like basically drapes the car. And then like a wet towel falls down again and curves this way. And that's what makes this scene so freaking awesome, right? Is that you get to see how those three moments work in the film, right? So if we go back here now and just play this little moment, if I can here, I'm getting all over the place. Sorry, guys. Here it is. Let's see. I'm doing slow-mo here because I don't want to end up bouncing all over the place. Right? So here he is, and I hit play. boom, right? You could feel the pop of his body against the car and how he flaps to the ground. Okay. All right. So with that, we close today. I hope that you enjoyed today's Force Friday. Next week, maybe we'll come in with either a particular movie or anime or live action versus it, something along these lines. I'll probably do a little bit more of what I just did now with the movie clip as well versus just stills. So you could see, how these things actually happen in the real world, where the actors over dramatizing to get more force out of the imagery, and and where can that be improved, right? So have a great weekend. Go watch some of your favorite action films. Maybe come in with suggestions for the weeks coming up, and we will see you next Friday. Take care, and thanks again, Swenley, of course, as always. And we will see you guys
Yes.
next week.
See you guys. Bye bye.
All right, see you guys. Bye.